Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a sport hour that we have dedicated to emergency preparedness for hospice and home care throughout Louisiana and Mississippi. Today, we are going to be focused on Region 1, which is Metro New Orleans. Regions 1 and 9, which are Metro New Orleans. And so I want to thank the folks from the region who are going to be joining us. I see Tom King with Region 1. Thank you. I saw Meredith was on. I know Sarah is being detained in an exercise today, but we have Rachel with us, I think. Dangiger?
Danager, yes, Rachel.
Rachel, thank you for being with us from Jefferson Parish. And then Keith Peak will be joining us from Covington in a few minutes. He's having a coalition meeting right now that's going to be finishing up, and then he'll be joining us as well. So this is, while we're going to be talking about emergency management, emergency preparedness for home care and hospice patients throughout the area, today, we're going to be particularly focused on regions 1 and 9. So to start off with what we heard earlier, and I heard today, this morning, I did not hear the update, but I heard that there was an update that was being done by Colorado University. And maybe, Tom, if you could tell me, are we still looking at 23 named storms, 11 hurricanes, 5 major hurricanes, higher odds for Florida and the East Coast as opposed to the Gulf Coast that we heard a couple of weeks back, and that there's a 56% chance that Louisiana will get some sort of tropical incursion, but only a 23% chance that it will be a major hurricane. Mississippi had a 43% chance with 13% chance that that was going to be a major hurricane. Tom, are you familiar with the update that was given today?
Just vaguely. I believe, though, that they did up the numbers slightly, and I know we've got something brewing, not a hurricane, but some storms for this coming Sunday, it looks like. So everybody needs to be aware of that.
Exactly.
And I will share a couple of sites for everybody whenever you get a chance to look at the weather as it evolves. There's a couple of things out there, not just the National Weather Service, but some other really handy sites that you can use and check on your phone.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being with us today. If you're interested in hearing the original recording of the May 1st predictions, you can click on these links, and there are PowerPoint slides that go along with that. As soon as I get the updated, I just heard that there was an update on this morning's news. When I can get a copy of that recording and those slides, I will put them up there. I will put them in this slide deck as well, so, and keep you all posted. But what I was seeing in this morning's on this morning's weather, it looks like that weather system, if anything, is going to go more towards the west, towards the Texas region. That's not to say we won't get some heavy rain here, but at least this morning's thinking that it was geared more towards the Texas region for Sunday and Monday, right, Tom?
Sorry, I was just trying to look up the latest forecast for you. Yeah, it's definitely, they were talking about it, not primarily hitting us, but they're expecting heavier than normal rain according to the most recent forecast I'm looking at. And we should be good, but it's going to be a wet weekend. No barbecues on Sunday.
Yeah, and all of this can change in the blink of an eye. Remember that. So we have to be prepared for whatever comes our way over the next 6 months. And though in terms of our calendar, we are looking at regions 1 and 9 today. next week we were supposed to look at Region 3. However, the governor signed a state holiday proclamation for Juneteenth next Wednesday. And so because of that, the folks in Region 3 have decided that rather than moving our date from Wednesday to either Tuesday or Friday, let's just go with August 7th. So we're rescheduling the focus on Region 3. Which is Houma Thibodeau, Metro Houma Thibodeau, those Gulf Coast parishes, especially for August 7th. Hopefully, we won't have any type of event prior to that would interfere with this schedule. But I just want to point that out. When we come back on June 26th, we will be focused on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We'll be doing Metro Lafayette and Lake Charles after that. And then on the 17th, we're going to be looking at regions 2 and 6, which are primarily the receiving parishes for our patients if they're transported out of this area. We'll be looking at medically needed sheltering in Mississippi. And we'll do another tutorial on the at-risk registry. We obviously need some more help on that. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then we'll be looking at, as we enter into the peak of hurricane season, what the new update maps look like, and hopefully a message from GOSEF and MEMA, our state partners in all of this. The question that's relevant today, as it is in every one of our sessions, is: have you submitted your emergency plan to your emergency manager in the parish or the county in which your office is located? That is the requirement. We suggest best practice is that you submit it to all of the emergency managers in all of the parishes in all of the counties that you service patients in, so that they're aware of your plan as well. Have you met with your emergency managers? That's a big point for us to. It's something that we really encourage you to do in an emergency. This is all about relationships, and that you know who they are, who your emergency manager is, and they know who you are, and your patient population is really important if there's any type of emergency situation in your neck of the woods. So it's real important that you know who those folks are. Those hyperlinks that you see for Louisiana parishes and Mississippi counties will give you the contact information you need to know who to contact, and their email address as well as their telephone number. Make an appointment, go and see them as soon as possible. Are you using the at-risk registry? That is the major tool that we have provided to hospice and home health agencies throughout Louisiana and Mississippi in order to communicate who those particular patients are that you're identifying as living alone without a caregiver, or they have a caregiver, but you know the caregiver is not capable of carrying through on an emergency evacuation, or they don't have the financial means to evacuate, or they're just plain stubborn. They're refusing to evacuate. If they fit one of those 4 categories, you can put that patient into this registry, and provided you do the weekly update, those names will be sent to the emergency managers in every parish and county in Louisiana and Mississippi, and they will know about those patients. It's important, though, that you remember you just can't start dumping patients into this registry thinking that the emergency managers will take care of them. Emergency managers are constantly looking at these records and planning, and they need to know exactly who to plan for if they're going to have any plans at all. We're going to get to that because right now, as of this morning, we had 140 patients in Region 1 and 9 who were not updated, who have not been updated as of this morning. And so we don't know what the status of those patients are, whether or not they're alive or whether they're deceased, because We have agencies that have not indicated if the patient needs to be deleted or if they need to be updated for whatever reason. 140 patients are still in the registry that need to be updated. We'll get to that in a little bit. Is there someone in your office dedicated to doing the weekly update in the at-risk registry? That's the only way that the names get transmitted to the emergency managers, is if the agency does that weekly update. That update is done on Thursday because we send out our list to emergency managers on Friday. If it's not done by the close of business on Thursday, then the patient's information is not transmitted. That's the only way we have to assure the emergency manager that that patient is still alive, still on service with you all, and still in need of assistance if there's an evacuation for their neighborhood. We have a little bit more information we're going to be talking about in terms of placards that agencies in Region 1 and 9 will need to enter back into this area if there is some sort of emergency. We'll be talking about that. I saw we have some slides from Meredith on that. And then also, you need, as a hospice or a home health agency, if you don't have branches in the rest of Louisiana and Mississippi where your patients can be cared for by your company with a different branch in the northern part of the state, then I strongly suggest that you make some contacts with either the hospice or a home health that you can depend upon in North Louisiana to either transfer those patients if there is an evacuation order, or work out a contract with that agency in terms of how they're going to care for your patients if there's an evacuation order. Because even though people may be displaced, if they're on service with you, CMS has an expectation that you're going to continue those services wherever they are. So that's something that every hospice and every home health agency should be considering and talking about, especially during hurricane season. This is the notice that we send out to every hospice and home health agency in Louisiana and Mississippi using the at-risk registry. This goes out at 7 a.m. every Thursday morning, and we ask that by the close of business on Thursday, you do that update so that on Friday morning at 7 a.m. when we send out all of the reports, those reports are accurate and correct as best as we can be within a 12-hour period of time. So I went into the registry this morning and pulled out some data just to see where we are right now. And overall, we have about 2,300 patients in the registry right now. As you can see, the breakdown for Louisiana and Mississippi, almost 1,600 of those patients are needing assistance in terms of evacuation. Now, that's across 2 states, don't forget. So we break it down by parishes as well. But we have over 700 patients in the registry as of this morning, who, for whatever reason, those patients have not been updated by the agency that put them into the registry. And I need you to start looking at and either take them out if they're no longer on service with you, or do the update if you're going to use this system. Otherwise, it's going to slow down the response of emergency managers, because we have these patients that we don't know what their status is because agencies fail to do the update for whatever reason. And speaking of that, 93 hospices in Louisiana are using the system this past week, and they put 1,400 patients in there, identifying 868 of them needing help, but there's another 542 that we don't know because they were not updated. 89 home health agencies currently have 975 patients in the registry, 734 of which we know would need assistance, but there's another 241 that we just don't know because They weren't updated. 298 Louisiana patients have not been updated since May 31st. And I know this is that over the past 12 days. We have 98 Louisiana patients, 135 Mississippi patients, 65 patients in the registry are missing a parish, and therefore they were not sent to an emergency manager because the parish was not identified. 66 are missing the zip code. So emergency managers use GPS tracking on a lot of their software, and that's why they need the zip codes for those patients. And please be careful. We ask all of the users to please be careful and use and make sure that the zip code is included in the data that you're inputting into the registry. I decided that this is serious enough, and each time we're going to focus on different parts of the state. I'm going to start naming names. So, well, before that, this is the Louisiana's. We're looking at regions 1 and 9. These are the contacts for regions 1 and 9, the regional contacts. Emergency managers need to know, I'm sorry, hospice and home health agencies, you need to know who these folks are and have their contact information in your emergency plan. I will tell you, I am acting as the DRC for home health and hospice agencies for regions 1 and 9. So if you have issues with regards to patient care in an emergency, please send me those requests and I funnel them to the appropriate person at the regional level to see how we can get those issues resolved. Okay, so send me your issues in an emergency, and that's my email, jboudreau@lmhpco.org. Now, I decided I was going to start naming names in terms of, we have, like I said, 140 patients that have not, in just region 1 and 9, that have not been updated as of 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. So, in other words, if things continue as they are, they won't be included in Friday unless these agencies go ahead and do the update. And I have identified 12 hospices that have 110 of these patients and the 9 home health agencies with 30 patients. If you see your name on this list, go in there and start and do the update. It hasn't been done yet. I called everybody, left messages for people to call me back so that I can help you walk you through the process, because it wasn't done last week. I called, I left messages for the person in charge of the at-risk registry in their agency to call me back. Some people called me back, others have not. So I decided I'm going to start calling names out. These are the agencies that I'm most concerned about with regards to having patients in the registry right now that were not updated last week. And when I called to let them know about it, as of yesterday at 4 p.m., they still had not been updated. So if you're having an issue with the update, call me. I'll be more than happy to walk you through the process. It's simple, it's quick. It takes 15 seconds for you to do the update, but it is required in order for our reports to be as accurate and correct as they can be when we're sending them to the emergency managers. Any questions before I turn over our program to our regional and parish emergency managers?
Jamie, did you list for Region 2 anyone that was behind for Region 2? I was just trying to make sure it was no one from our agency.
Well, I saw there were some providers out of Region 2 who service patients in Region 9. If they're not updating the patients if the patients in Region 9 were not updated from the providers in Region 2 servicing Region 9, then they're probably not updating them in Region 2 as well. I just pulled out the patients from Region 1 and 9 so that we could focus on this area today. But if you
Okay.
see a provider in Region 2 that's located in Region 2, these are the patients that they have in Region 1 or 9 that haven't been updated. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. That definitely makes sense.
Okay. And I don't, I don't mean, to name it like that, but I have to, because I'm being ignored when I call the agency and or not ignored, but the message isn't getting through to the agency that this needs to be done. You can't just dump the names of patients when a storm is heading our way. The emergency managers need to know about these patients today in order to plan for them for the peak of hurricane season in August. Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay. Any other questions? Are there any announcements other than we're moving? Kim, thank you for letting me know about the state holiday next Wednesday. We are moving Region 3, like I said, to August 7th rather than next week. Okay, we will have a regular call, but we will not be focused on Region 3 next week. We're going to do that on August 7th. Any other announcements or questions from our today's participants? Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Meredith, are you on?
I am, yes.
Yes, thank you, Meredith. Okay. Meredith is with Orleans Parish. Meredith, good. You got it. I turned over control to you, and so please lead us through your thoughts and expectations of hospice and home health agencies for the coming hurricane season.
All right. Well, thank you, Jamie. And hi, everyone. For those that haven't met me, my name is Meredith McInturf. We've had a few staffing changes in our unit, so it's kind of important to make sure that you do actually look at these slides and make sure to update some of the email addresses and things like that. But I'm currently the manager of the Public Health Emergencies and Environmental Health Unit at the New Orleans Health Department. So I'm excited to talk to you all a little bit more about some of the things that we've been working on and some of the things that we hope to get back from you ahead of this hurricane season. Let me advance my slide. So a lot of times there's a lot of questions about the roles of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness versus the New Orleans Health Department during emergencies. And so there are certain functions that are still under NOSEP. One of those pieces are the reentry placards for our region. So the contact person for that is Carlos. You'll see his email address there. And also copy in nosep@nola.gov just in case Carlos is out for any reason. For updates to those placards. Most of the time, you all are requesting regional placards, so you can request those from any of the parishes within the region. But if you're primarily based in Orleans Parish, we would ask that you would go through NOSEP for those updates. Many organizations do keep those placards, kind of within their teams and then distribute them ahead of a storm. That's what we would encourage as well, just because you don't want people to lose them. I know I certainly don't want my staff to lose the limited placards we have. So they're on a rotating system with 4 years with each sticker. So I think a lot of them probably expired within the last year or so. So if you haven't gone through this process or you have questions about reentry placards, feel free to reach out to Carlos specifically. Also, NOSEP is, interested in knowing about your plans, but we'd also like to have a copy of them within the health department as well, since we're usually the primary point of contact that you will have during emergencies. But if you do want to submit your plan to the Orleans Parish Office of Homeland Security and NOHD, you can submit them to both nosep@nola.gov and PHEEH, which stands for Public Health Emergencies and Environmental Health. So that'll go to both of our teams for review. Usually our team will send back kind of a confirmation that we received that, document and that we've kind of reviewed it and things like that. it's funny because we just received some in the mail, not from home health or hospice agencies, but from a different type of healthcare facility. And immediately the email already bounced back because there was an administrator change, even since the letter was sent. So it is really important to keep that up to date with us. And that's why we do send those kind of confirmation emails as well. So just let us know if you haven't submitted it yet. We're happy to take a look at it. It also helps us to keep our system up to date, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. If you have other questions for NOSEP, you can always go through us as an initial line, but if you need their phone number for any reason, their non-emergency line is kind of their generic office, number, that 8700 number, for, general connection with them. If you want a presentation of a certain variety. So they coordinate a lot of our active shooter presentations, for example, and things like that. If you have questions about the hazard mitigation program, if you have questions about anything in that realm, I would recommend reaching out to them there. But they also have their 24/7 emergency line. So that's their duty phone that goes to the on-call emergency manager. I would say, generally speaking, we don't give this out to the public. It's really for trusted partners and agents who, if there's a problem, you always can get in touch with someone. Email is always great as well. There are people kind of checking that NOSEP at NOLA.gov email at all hours. So, just kind of considering those two pieces as you are thinking about reaching out to different people.
Meredith,
Yeah.
one question about the placard. Is the
Mhm.
placard, as in past years, a regional placard for all 4 parishes plus St. Tammany?
That's a good question. I don't think St. Tammany is on there. Let me see
It was last year.
if it was last year, then it is this year. It hasn't changed in the last year.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't remember that. And as I mentioned, we have had a few staffing changes. So when in doubt, you can always send something to our shared email in the health department. So this is pheeh@nola.gov. That way, if for whatever reason I don't see it, somebody else from our team can flag it to my attention or to somebody else's attention, just in case we're out of office or doing field work or things like that. It keeps it a little bit more consistent. But I've attached my cell phone number, our field operations coordinator, Catherine's cell phone number, and Latoya Baylor, who's our community engagement coordinator's cell phone numbers in here as well. So you have backup of all the different options should you need to get in touch with us. Just to reiterate what Jamie said earlier, the at-risk registry is really important to us. We do look at it regularly and use it as kind of a tool to advocate for, extra resources and things like that at the local level. So as much as you can keep it up to date year round, we pull those numbers periodically and provide them for, even exercise purposes, for planning meetings, for all these different things. So please keep it up to date. And we do use it to kind of plan with EMS on numbers of people who are bedbound in particular and would need EMS resources ahead of these large storms so that we can call in the right types of contracts because we know that New Orleans EMS services can't cover everything all the time. But having that ability to say, this is the number of patients we have that are truly in need of an ambulance type vehicle versus who could use RTA or a similar transit type. So really important that you all keep that updated and that the phone numbers are up to date in there as well. As always, we recommend that people sign up for our emergency alerts in the parish. We have them available in both English and Spanish. So texting NOLA Ready to 77295 is a great way to get started and making sure your staff and your patients have also done that and their caregivers and the like. And then similarly, we do have Spanish alerts as well by texting ESP to 77295. And so from there, it actually will send you back a link to complete a Smart 911 profile, which is just a profile with additional information about kind of medical needs, number of people living in your household, things like that. All of that information is optional. But for folks that do have more concerns that they'd want to share with an emergency manager or a first responder, it is possible to kind of do that on your own through that portal. You can also do it through nola.gov/smart911, same idea. And there's also an app version. So you have 3 different ways of kind of connecting with that system. It's not required, but it is helpful. And it's another way that we pull information about different types of needs across the parish, whether it's people who have indicated that they have an electricity need, if they have a mobility need, if they have a certain medical need or condition. Next up is really just updating our contact information. We've been going through our list, checking them twice basically ahead of this hurricane season. But if there have been staffing changes on your end, if you all can scan this QR code, or Jamie will send out the slides as well. So you'll have an opportunity to do it later if you're on your phone now, to fill out a short contact information update. We are trying to make sure that we have all of the providers who want information about things that are happening in Orleans Parish. We're also are piloting a new newsletter from our unit. Our first one went out this past month. So if you want to get signed up for that, that's another way to do that, by sharing your information here in that survey. And if you do have new leadership that are coming on board, or new staff members, you can always reach out to us. We're happy to resend this survey link later on. It's actually the same link that we used last year. But we will be going through and kind of taking the new responses and making sure that all of our lists are current, ahead of any potential storms or other hazards that happen this summer. One other piece I wanted to briefly touch on is heat and health, because it's something that we have seen a lot of issues with in the past year in Orleans Parish in particular. So there are a few new tools that are out there that I wanted to make you all aware of. One of which is the new CDC heat risk tool. So this actually does a 6-day forecast of the heat and health risk across the area. So this is not strictly a temperature reading. It is actually pulling information on, compared to the average climate of your area, based on previous days, how many times do people go to the ED or to use EMS services. It kind of pulls together a few different metrics to say what's the real risk to human health due to the heat that you're going to see in the next week. So we have been using this internally to help some of our city departments in making decisions about time of day that they're out doing kind of manual services, and things like that. And so I know that we're working on doing some more heat safety training and things like that within departments. But it's a helpful tool that if you all are also interested in receiving that weekly email for us, we're currently just doing it for Orleans Parish, and sending that out. But we send it out Monday morning and Thursday morning, just to make sure that we're all on the same page about kind of what the week looks like and what sorts of resources or extra tools we might need to equip our outdoor workers with. And since you all, do have workers who go from home to home, or maybe out in different conditions, you're seeing patients who are living at home and talking to them about their heat risk or their exposure to heat. This could be a helpful tool for you all as well. And also we do offer heat safety training. So you can email our shared email address to schedule that training. Could be virtually, could be in person, but we can kind of tailor it to the needs of your group, whether that is personal protection for your workers, or if it is more about talking to patients or clients about tips to protect their health. All things are on the table. So just kind of email us and let us know what you need. We do have partners at LDH who are also offering similar training statewide. So if you're outside of Orleans Parish, we can also connect you to some of the LDH partners who are doing that in other places as well. And that brings me to the end of my presentation for today. But if there are any questions, I'll be on the line for the rest of the call. So if you think of it later, you can always reach out to us too.
I have a question. In terms of what are the parameters, or what triggers an a mandatory evacuation?
So currently it is a higher level categorized storm for one, but it's mainly around the timeline and when they figure that out. So if they figure out it is past that, I really H-60 hour, that is where decisions have to be made about the safety of putting people on the roads. And so it's kind of hard to say. There's not a hard and fast answer to that, but I would generally say if you can see it further out than 5 days and that it is projected to be, above a Cat 3, I think that's still a fair assumption that would potentially trigger an evacuation, but it does depend on kind of a few different factors.
So, I guess my point is, if it is a category 1 or 2, and this is not universal because there could be some exceptions to this, but we would be evacuating in place. I mean,
You'd be sheltering in place. Yes.
I'm sorry. We'd be
Yes.
sheltering in place. as will our patients. There's not going to be an expectation of moving patients if there's a shelter in place suggestion for one and two. The evacuations are really triggered if it's category 3 or higher in terms of starting to move patients from their homes to special needs shelters or wherever. And there are risks that come with all of that. That's why it's best that patients are cared for by family members who are making decisions as to whether or not to stay or leave, get their family members involved in taking charge of their patients rather than leaving it to the parish or the region to do. Correct? Any questions of Meredith in terms of patients that you have in Orleans Parish or Region 1?
Yeah, Meredith, we saw some information on Smart 911. Is that something that's live now? And
Yes, it's live now, and you can sign up at any point. So basically, it's pretty similar to what we previously had in our special needs registry, except it is usable by other agencies. So the previous registry was really internal to NOHD. This is something that actually applies to day-to-day emergencies as well. It pops up if you call 911 from a number that's registered there, that they can actually see the profile. They can see any of the medical conditions, the pets, the kids, whatever other information you provided from the 911 dispatch. So it's a stronger tool than what we had before. And it's also connected to our emergency communication system so that it's all within the same platform. So you don't have to have multiple streams of information coming in. It's all connected. So, but yes, I would highly encourage, you all to push that as much as you can to your clients and also to people that you work with in Orleans Parish in general.
Yeah, and this is for the general public. It's not just for
correct.
home health or hospice patients or vulnerable patients. This is information that the police can use, the fire departments can use in terms of knowing special circumstances for that particular address. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions for Meredith? She's gonna stay with us. So if your questions come up, please feel free to ask them then. But we are going to, and Rachel is with Jefferson Parish, and Rachel, you want to take over the screen and give us some information around with regards to what you're doing in Jefferson Parish this hurricane season?
Yes, absolutely. I got a new computer today, so can everyone hear me all right?
We can hear you.
Excellent.
Yep. Your slides are not being shared though. I don't
Yeah.
see your slides up.
Visible now?
There they are. Yes, ma'am. If you press
Great.
there you go. Now you're on. Thank you.
Okay, so if I have not met any of you, hi, my name is Rachel. I am on Sarah's public health team. I'm an emergency management coordinator for Jefferson Parish, but I specialize in public health and kind of the human side of emergency management. So you'll be probably hearing from me at some point. A little bit just to start off, we in Jefferson Parish use jeffersonparish.net/jpaware for kind of like the centralized location for our emergency preparedness information. And also we utilize JP Alert or JP Noticias as our emergency alert system. So if you are not signed up for that, you want to text 888-777, text JP Alert or JP Noticias to receive that in those emergency alerts in Spanish. So that's going to be everything from localized severe weather to hurricane updates to anything with severe heat. That's how we do our emergency communications, and that's managed by our emergency managers. For these, for placards, we utilize Jumpstart Jefferson. So if you need to get updated placards or you need to renew them, or you just need some more information about how we operate that program, our point of contact is Kevin Woods. And I think at the bottom of the screenshot, you can see his information, but it's kwoods@jeffparish.net. but you can also just go to our emergency management page on the website, and it is a direct link from right there. Or you can go to our hurricane dashboard, and if you click on Prepare Now, there's all this information about the program, and there's a short presentation as well that you can view if you have questions about the application or renewal process. And if you need more information, you can reach out to Kevin. He manages that program.
Rachel, one question
Mhm.
about placard. Is this, if an agency's office is in Jefferson Parish, they get this placard. Is this placard good for the entire region?
I believe Meredith said yes, so I believe it means
Yes,
yes
it's
for
the
Jefferson
same.
as well.
so-
Yeah, I think it's the same.
So it's just, the important thing is that the agency go to the parish EOC to get their placard. And it's going to be good for the region. Okay.
Yes, and I would say like if you have more facilities in Jefferson Parish or Orleans, vice versa, that you get the placard for that parish. Yes. Our medical needs registry. So we utilize our medical needs registry. We manage it through Web EOC for interagency coordination, but it is for individuals with medical and or mobility needs who may require support evacuating. So whether that be they need to utilize a paratransit or MITS bus for mobility purposes, or they would need to be evacuated via an ambulance. And these individuals would, either get mobility support and go to a parish pickup point, or they would go to a medical needs shelter or a hospital. So individuals can register themselves online through that link. That's a clickable link. It's just an online form. Or they can call our direct line at that number, and we can support them getting registered over the phone. And so how that process works is they'll fill out a form with us, and then someone from the public health team will look through it and assign them a type of transportation and a type of shelter. And then we'll call them back and we'll review that evacuation plan with them over the phone. And then when a storm does hit, we will reach out to them directly and coordinate with them timing and all of that. And then so specifically for any home health / hospice patients, we would call anyone on that list as well and cross-reference if they're listed on the at-risk registry, or if they're listed on our medical needs registry, and make sure that we're taking everyone into account. I don't know why this is all coming like that, but so for local shelters, depending on where, the damage from what the storm caused or the severity, we may also operate local shelters. These are typically in recreation centers in Jefferson Parish. We would be able to handle limited medical needs, but individuals must be able to sleep on a cot and need relatively limited support. We also have 2 oxygen distribution sites that would be available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at those 2 fire stations.
This is all post-storm. This
Yes.
is not pre-storm.
Correct. You asked a question about kind of what
Triggers.
causes us to issue, what triggers a mandatory evacuation. Meredith is right. It's not really one set point. It's not necessarily a category 3 is automatically a mandatory evacuation, but it is a pretty good point to go off of. Voluntary, we always recommend people who have medical needs or who rely on electrically dependent medical devices or who receive dialysis services. We recommend that they evacuate no matter what. But a mandatory evacuation is when there's a large threat to life loss. It kind of depends on these factors: infrastructure status, parish conditions, and then also, very importantly, the timeline. How much time do we have? Do we have the ability to call a mandatory? And then it could also be for specific geographical areas or specific populations as well. Parish assisted evacuation. So just some things I want to go over. If a mandatory evacuation is called, we really use it as kind of a last resort, and we don't require people to bring IDs or paperwork with them, but it is really helpful for the registration process, but also it's important for people to have those important documents when they do evacuate. People can only bring 1 bag per person, and families and pets can stay together if they arrive together at the parish pickup point. And there's an exception to that for people with medical needs, of course. They will return through the same process. So I have a diagram on this next page that kind of explains it better. So for individuals with relatively no severe medical or mobility needs, they would want to get on a regular Jefferson Parish transit bus, just go to a regular bus stop. Those will be operating normally until it is unsafe to do so. And then they will go to one of our 2 parish pickup points. And then they will be evaluated if they have any specific needs. And so they will either go via plane or via coach bus to a general population shelter or a medical needs shelter. Individuals who need paratransit buses will also go to that parish pickup point and go through that same process. And individuals who evacuate by ambulance will either go to a hospital shelter or to a medical needs shelter. It kind of depends on their specific situation. So our medical needs registry is really useful if we can have that information ahead of time to know what types of resources we need to request and just get general numbers on the number of people who are going to need to utilize this service.
And I just want to put a plug in. This is where the at-risk registry helps agencies like home health and hospices get a jump start on all of that.
Mm-hmm. And then, so my next 3 slides just kind of provide an overview of the various evacuation timelines. I won't specifically go over each one, but we've got our H120 to 96 timeline, and you can kind of see where key decisions are being made in this timeline. And obviously, based on the storms timeline, we have different timelines to match what we would realistically probably see. And then we've got our H72 to 48. So like Meredith was saying, we really need a certain amount of time to be able to call that mandatory evacuation, and it can be challenging with those faster moving storms. This is my last slide. It's just our communication, who you would want to reach out to if you have any questions regarding Jefferson Parish. So Sarah oversees all of public health for Jefferson Parish. If you haven't met her, that's her contact information. And then I will probably be in charge of a lot of the local sheltering that's going on. That's my contact information. If you can't reach her, I suggest emailing me and I will probably be able to get to you more quickly. Sarah Richter does our EMS compliance for Jefferson Parish. She's also a good point of contact. She's an emergency manager as well. And then that's the direct number to our EOC. And then in the case of an EOC activation, that number, the 504-323-1818, is going to be easily accessible. And that will also be the number that you're going to want to call regarding any medical needs patients. And that is all that I have.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to thank you. Any questions for Rachel or patients in Jefferson Parish? Any particular questions that you might have? Okay, if there are no questions, I'm just ask: are there any officials from Plaquemines or St. Bernard Parish on today's call by chance? I don't think so. Okay, Tom King is regional manager for Region 1. Tom, you said that you had some links that you wanted to share earlier in terms of updated information.
Jamie, what I did is I emailed you them. I'd like you to send them out to your staff.
Okay, we can certainly do that. I'll put them in.
Much more brief. I've got a one pager because we're kind of specialized, but I'll just sort of go over it. I think it'll be germane to this discussion.
Okay.
Just let me find the right one. Let's see if I did it right. So you should see my one pager. We're very specialized, and there's 2 of us here in Region 1, myself and Javan Bernard. And we're classified as ADRCs, or Administrative Designated Regional Coordinator. $24 word for we sort of help coordinate stuff. We're equivalent to what Jamie does for you, but we do it for tier 1 and tier 2 hospitals. So during emergent events, both pre and post, we sort of coordinate between all of the tier 1s and tier 2s in region 1. And also we work with EMS, the local parish folks, state, and some of the federal agencies that are involved in these large scale events. We also sort of maintain and administer the at-risk registry, which is different than you have on your side. This is separate just for region 1, or I shouldn't say region 1, just for tier 1 and tier 2 hospitals. And we also have a number of other ESF8 databases that the tier 1 and tier 2 hospitals report into that tell us about patient loads and what the EDs look like, any equipment up or down, that type of information. So we monitor that very closely during emergent events. We also, during an emergent event, both pre and post, we respond to resource requests, enter them into WebEOC. You'd be amazed what people need both pre and post. During IDA, I mean, the biggest thing people needed was fuel and generators. So we'd enter a lot of that into the WebEOCs and pass it up the line and help coordinate this information. We also coordinate directly with the EMS folks, and we have 3 EMS DRCs per se, and between the 3 EMS DRCs and the 2 ADRCs, we sort of help with marshaling all the EMS resources, both pre and post, which is kind of an interesting, we just had a meeting just before this one on EMS responses. So I'll send you a copy of that, Jamie. I don't assume you were on there, but you might find that interesting.
Okay.
The other thing that Joanna and I do a lot of is we work with the coalition. Now, in Region 1, we take all of the Tier 1s and Tier 2s and a number of state agencies and local agencies that we talk among ourselves, and we generate policies and procedures that everybody's going to adhere to and use during emergent events. We also help coordinate exercises. Of course, we all need more exercises. We try to include Jamie every so often on things like communications exercises. We have a redundant communications exercise coming up next week and a few other things. So we also offer training. A couple of weeks ago, we offered a hazmat course for people that in the hospital world that are basically have to, what do we do with somebody who comes in covered in ethyl deadly? What do we do? Scrub them down? Do we turn them out? That type of stuff. So that was kind of an interesting thing. And we also help them write up the after action reports. All the hospitals are required, Tier 1s anyways, to have after action.
I'm not sure. It sounds like we lost Tom. Can everyone hear me, or did y'all lose me?
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. I think we lost Tom. Okay. I work with Tom when we have patients to try and get into hospitals. I work with Tom and Joanne to do that, and that's one of our primary functions. So I want to move on to Region 9. Keith Peak, I think you're with us today, correct?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Keith. Thank you. Keith is the leader for Region 9, which is the North Shore of the metropolitan New Orleans area. Keith, you have any words or comments or suggestions or expectations for hospice and home health agencies that are servicing patients on the North Shore?
Sure. And there again, thank you, Jamie, for this opportunity. Now I'm driving. I'm actually physically driving, so I don't have a presentation. So anyway, with that being said, first off, I want to make sure with clarity that there is no placard system on the North Shore. There is no placards needed for the Region 9 parishes. There again, the only thing that you need in Region 9 on the North Shore parishes is just your official provider ID badge, just to that way it identifies your agency that you work for. There again, no placards needed. Also, as a reminder, as a matter of fact, I just stepped out of a GOSEP OEP meeting, regional OEP meeting within the last few minutes. And so there again, National Weather Service was there. Now, per National Weather Service, they said, per them directly, that as far as them, there's been no changes in the hurricane prediction and the hurricane forecast.
Oh,
It's the same. So just according to them, there are no changes. Of course, with that being said, as we all know, not only National Weather Service but Colorado and all those predicting, forecasting organizations, agencies, they all, of course, forecasting a very, very active hurricane season. So that's unfortunate in that aspect. But anyway, with that being said, as a reminder, and I know I mentioned this several times last year, as a reminder, I would just say for the home health hospice agencies, please constantly remind your patients about their oxygen needs, to make sure that they maintain their oxygen needs, they prepare, they accumulate extra oxygen needs, because usually that's the first phone call I get from hospitals. They'll say, Keith, I got a lot of people showing up in our EDs needing oxygen resources. So there again, that would be a great help if they could just continuously remind their patients, their clients, their patient families to be mindful to make sure they have adequate oxygen in preparation of a hurricane. So, and there again, also on Region 9, and there again, this is per the OEPs, they're not too forward about opening shelters. And there again, if they do open up shelters, it's what they call a shelter of last resort. Some of them may or may not have AC. Some of them may have portable AC, so it won't be a comfortable shelter. So there again, it's just designed for a shelter of last resort. Basically, you're in there, you're out of there when you could go back home, when it's safer to go back home. So, Jamie, and there again, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No, thank you, Keith. I appreciate, I appreciate all the work that you're putting in terms of trying to increase patient safety for especially hospice and home health patients on the North Shore. Meredith, you put 2 links into the chat box. I copied them onto a slide. You want to just tell folks what those 2 links are for?
Sure. I posted them back when we were talking about the Colorado State updates. So those are the main website for the forecast that comes out, and they do some updates throughout the summer. And then the second one is the specific longer version of the forecast. I couldn't find a video. There probably is one that kind of explains that longer document, but at least you all will have that if you're interested.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll add it to that slide in terms of an updated slide. Okay. Any questions, any provider, especially those providers who service patients on the North Shore, do you have any particular questions for Keith before we let him go? I'm not hearing any questions, Keith, but thank you again for being on today's call.
Jamie,
Okay.
this is Anita with St. Tammany Hospice.
Yes, ma'am.
Hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to kind of let Keith know that when we're delivering oxygen to a patient in the height of, pre-storm, we can't always supply 5 and 6 days worth of portable oxygen. So we can't put that much oxygen in the home. It's a safety issue. So we provide 24 hours worth of portable oxygen in the home. We make sure the patient has a generator or they're moving out of harm's way ahead of time. But you're always going to have those patients that may not have someone to fill the generator with gas, and we can't get to them in the rural parts of St. Tammany. So I just want to make that clear that an oxygen distributing fire station like Jefferson Parish has in the parish of St. Tammany would be wonderful.
Well, yes, and that's a great comment. But with that being said, 24 hours goes by pretty fast.
Yes, it
And
does.
there again, some people may panic, anxiety, thinking, hey, I only have 18 hours left, so I need oxygen now. Now, there again, and definitely, well, whatever is the safest for the patient, that's what we want. But 24 hours is really not that much. I mean, that's their game because, like I said, they're not going to wait for 24 hours later to show up at a hospital. They're going to show up at the hospital when they probably only have 18 hours left. So anyway, it's just a suggestion. If things can be worked out, now we'll probably bring oxygen in as far as have distribution sites like we did during Hurricane Ida. But there again, that takes days. That won't happen in 24 hours. That may happen in 48 or 72 hours, even with the fire departments, because we pushed that issue during Hurricane Ida to get the fire departments to do that. But there again, they're not going to have it within 24 hours. It may be 48 hours. So you can see there's going to be a gap. There's at best, there's going to probably be a gap, especially if people kind of have a little anxiety or paranoid about, I need more oxygen. They may only have 18 hours left, but they're going to say, I need it now. So anyway, it's just, if we could work things out, it'd be great. But more than likely, it probably would be at best. I don't know if we could get oxygen within 24 hours, but it probably more likely 48 hours till we have it, till we could distribute it out.
Yeah, I mean, we do the best we can with what we're able to do in the patient's homes. And I think, having that as an option may benefit the people of St. Tammany, not just the hospice patients, but everybody really. That's on oxygen. I mean, as everybody, people walk around with oxygen everywhere. So I can understand why there could be some panic.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions before we wrap up today's session with regards to patients that are living in Metro New Orleans area? Anything keeping you awake at night as a provider, as a home health or a hospice provider about your patients? Okay. But I want to thank you all. I want to thank all of our guests, especially Meredith and Rachel, Keith, and Tom. Thank you all for being part of today's discussion. I also see Kim and Liz from regions 3 and 4 are also on today's call. Thank you for being here. Kim will be getting to region 3 on August 7th. Liz, I think we see Lafayette a little earlier than that. But I'm going to take all of the slides that you saw today with the links. I'm going to take all of Meredith's slides, all of Rachel's slides. I'm going to put them into one slide deck and turn it into a PDF. So all of the hyperlinks will still be working. And I'm going to place that in next Wednesday's calendar invite. That way, if you would like it, if you would like to receive it, just go to next week's calendar invite. Probably within the next hour, you should see it, and you can just draw down all of those slides. Okay. Anything else before we wrap up for today? I appreciate your time. It's 2:03. If there are no other questions, we'll call it quits for the day, and I'll see you all back next week, same time, same station.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.